Hello, my name is Catherine Federline, and this is an overview of one of the diverse field placements which I did. This was a placement which took place from the spring of 2020 to the spring of 2022. So this placement was teaching faith formation within the Diocese of Steubenville. So when I started this field placement in the spring of 2020, I took over for another Franciscan student who had started teaching fourth grade in the fall, but was studying in Austria. So they needed someone to take over her fourth grade class. So I had the opportunity to co-teach with another peer, the students in fourth grade. So during our time teaching the fourth grade students, we started by just doing a quick overview and focus on important topics from the Old Testament. Covering these important topics from the Old Testament helps to prepare the students to then focus on the New Testament and the life of Jesus. So we wanted to make sure that they had that solid background knowledge before they dived into learning about the life of Jesus in the New Testament. So some of the activities and opportunities we provided students in order to learn about the Old Testament and then about the life of Jesus were using different Bible stories from the Old Testament. Sometimes we'd have students act them out. Sometimes we'd read through them and reflect on them. We also gave many opportunities for classroom discussion, which helped to engage the students in their learning and really help them get excited and focused on the lesson. We also gave opportunities for hands-on activities. For example, when we were talking about the Battle of Jericho, where soldiers marched around the walls and then blew trumpets, we gave students the opportunity to make their own trumpets, and then we gave them the opportunity to use those crafts that they had created to then act out the story of walking around the walls and blowing their trumpets. So that gave students an opportunity not just to hear these stories, but to really experience these stories with more than just their ears and listening. We also incorporated different quizzes and different assessments, either through asking them questions or giving them different quizzes or tests on what they learned to ensure that what they were learning really was sinking in and that they were really understanding it. So as you might know, the spring of 2020 is when COVID and lockdowns first started. So we were only able to make it a small way through this semester before we had to move online. So moving online during the spring semester of 2020 for faith formation pretty much just looked like once we had made a decision to move online, we sent out one or two more lessons for this semester just to kind of cover different topics. And these were lessons that we allowed them to work through with their parents on their own timing. So we didn't have the opportunity at that point to meet face to face because the diocese didn't have the tools set up for that. So, but continuing forward past that semester, we did continue some online learning with a similar format. So moving into the next year of fall 2020, all the way through fall 2022, I was moved to working with the first and second grade students and preparing them to receive their first communion in second grade. So during that time, I was able to assist one of the classroom teachers who taught the in-person classes whenever those were available. I also had the opportunity to help support the online students by helping to create the content that they would be working through with their parents at their own pace. So one of the big things with the online learning was parent communication. So here's just a little example of one of the emails I would send back to the parents. So the way the lessons worked, they didn't at that time, the diocese didn't have any learning management system or anything to utilize, so the lessons just pretty much had to be sent, and the communication had to be done just through email. So I would gather all the resources and materials for the parents to work on, and try to put it together in almost kind of like a sort of a lesson plan that showed them, if they start at the top with the readings of the books from the textbook, then it would show different homework for them to turn in. I also realized after the first semester of doing the online learning that being very explicit with instructions and directions for how to do things was very important, because even though some parents and students might be very tech savvy, some others might not. So giving them that support at the beginning helped to eliminate some of the questions and emails about different simple things of like how to complete assignments, how to fill in different things. So I made sure to include that in my emails just as a reminder for them, in case there were any issues that they came across, that they would have the tools they needed to try to troubleshoot those before they would need to send me an email. I also just wanted to not only give them different content to teach their students, but also recognize that some of the parents themselves wouldn't necessarily know all the topics very well. And in the environment that they were in right there for the online learning, it really was on the parents to help with teaching these lessons and the faith. So understanding some parents might not have the knowledge or resources they need, I would try to include additional activities or resources in addition to the books. Sometimes those activities and resources would be geared towards the students, and sometimes I would include instructional videos for the parents so that they themselves could learn about the topics more to help teach their students. So, and also in the hope of really bringing the family together in this experience, I also would include different prayers that I would encourage them to pray as a family, and sometimes I would include different activities for them to do as a family. Since the focus of faith formation, like there is some academic of learning the content, but it is more so just the experience of growing in your faith and just really making it your own and really just growing closer to the Lord, which is something that we don't just want the students to do, but we also want the families as a whole to do. So that was a cool experience of not just focusing with working with the students, but also getting to experience what it's like to work with parents. So I just wanted to share just 2 little samples of some of the work that students did while online. So often with the online format, I would create different quizzes from what they would read and the resources I gave them. Sometimes it would be like this, like a word scramble with a word bank. Sometimes I would do some true and false or multiple choice. So it was a good experience for me to practice not only writing instructions for how to complete different assignments, but also learn how to best word questions so that the students would be able to understand, especially in a distance learning. You're not there with them. So if they have a question about the way something's worded or if something's really confusing, they can't raise your hand and be like, hey, can you help me answer this? And you can't see like, oh, I think they're struggling. Let me go like explain what I meant by this. So definitely learned that I need to be very clear in how I write the questions and trying to make questions that would be beneficial for all students, and that could help show the learning of all students. So here's the answers from one of the students, just from part of the worksheet that she completed. So she did a great job with this one. We were learning about the resurrection and about Jesus' presence in the Eucharist. So this was a really cool opportunity to kind of, towards the end of the semester, tie in a lot of what we learned. In addition to different quizzes and stuff, I also wanted to provide them other activities and assessments, understanding that not all students will thrive best on just a test, and that's not always the best way to assess what a student is learning or knows. So I also included some other activities throughout the semester. I did some word searches. I also did some different activities where they had to fill out a liturgical calendar showing the different seasons in the Catholic Church. And as you can see here, this one was a little writing assignment I had them do, just writing 1 to 2 sentences about learning about the importance of the Mass, how we can keep the Lord's Day special. So as you can see, the student says that she can rest on Sunday and pray with her family and try to do something nice for others. So that was a really cool opportunity with assignments like this to really get to see more of how the students are thinking and not just see like true false answers, but it was a really good opportunity to also get to know the students a little bit more too, even though we never met face to face. So definitely a lot of things that I learned throughout this entire experience. In the classroom, I learned just the importance of getting students engaged, and that sometimes it's not as easy as you would expect. Definitely in the first semester, I was new to the education program, so I didn't know a lot of strategies myself on classroom management or getting students engaged, but had the opportunity to learn and sometimes struggle with engaging students. But really, towards the middle, which was the end of our in-person semester, got to know my students a lot better, so I knew what would work for them and what would get them engaged. So definitely the importance of knowing your students is something that I learned. Also, like I said earlier, with the online format, really learned the importance of trying to be very clear in your instructions and directions, and also not being very long-winded in your communication online, because parents and students often don't have the time or won't take the time to read multiple pages of information, but trying to keep it very concise, but still sharing the important information. So those are probably two of the most important takeaways I had from this experience. Thank you so much for listening, and I hope you enjoyed learning about my experience.